Hello everyone, Ryan Hitchcock here, financial planner with High Point Capital Group. Hope everyone is well. Just wanted to share a recent webinar I did on the Secure Act and the 4 most important items I think everybody should know inside of that act. So take a look and hope you enjoy. Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for being on the line. I'm gonna jump right in. So I'm gonna talk about the 4 items we think everyone should know about the Secure Act. Now, this is not to be confused with the CARES Act, like Todd mentioned. That's the coronavirus aid and relief package that we talked about last presentation. The Secure Act is actually the acronym for Setting Every Community Up for Retirement Enhancement Act. I know it's a mouthful. But they actually signed this into law at the end of the year last year on December 20th, and it offers several major adjustments to how we save, prepare, and ultimately enjoy retirement. It's technically the second sweeping legislative tax and retirement reform we've seen in under 2 years. The first was the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act back in 2017. So typically you don't see many of these reforms for almost decades, but we've actually now seen 2 in 2 years. So that's why we thought it was important to go over this act, because it has a lot of good changes, but also it's seemed to be, passed very abruptly at the end of last year. Not many people have heard about it. And then it's gotten brushed under the rug with all of the COVID-19 and the market volatility here recently. So it hasn't really gotten its moment in the spotlight. So just want to review some items here. So one of the most significant changes made by the Secure Act is the elimination of the stretch provision for non-spouse beneficiaries for IRAs or other retirement accounts. So meaning if someone other than your spouse passes away and you inherit a retirement account from them, this affects you. Under the previous law, so before 2020 now, beneficiaries were able to stretch, they called it, their RMDs, required minimum distributions is what it stands for, over their life expectancy, meaning somebody could take a small percentage based off their age out of their account. It would then be taxed, but leave the majority in their inherited IRA to grow tax deferred for their lifetime. It's a very powerful tool in financial planning, but now that's gone away. So beneficiaries who inherit one of these accounts in 2020, the new standard is what they call this 10-year rule. So under the 10-year rule, the entire balance of the account must be emptied by the end of the 10th year. So it takes away any of those required minimum distributions. So there's no distribution requirement within the 10-year period. It just has to be emptied by the 10th year. So that's provided a lot of flexibility when it comes to timing distributions from an inherited account right now. So a lot of planning is gonna be necessary to make sure that you're maximizing your tax efficiency in these accounts. The second most important item that the Secure Act has done is it has gotten rid of the confusing magic age of 70 and a half. And it's done that in 2 places. The first, it has changed the starting age for these RMDs to age 72. That's your required minimum distributions. And for those of you close to retirement, you've heard of your RMDs, but those of you who might be younger and might not have heard of RMD, again, that is just the minimum distribution that the IRS requires you to take out of your retirement accounts as an aggregate each year to be taxed upon it. That's all tax deferred money. And that percentage goes up every year. So those tables have not changed, and you can still delay from April 1st of the following year. But really, this rule came about simply because people can understand the concept of turning 72 a lot more than they can understand turning 70 and a half. That half year was actually quite confusing on trying to figure out when you had to start your required minimum distribution. So theoretically, this should make it a lot easier in the future for some retirement. The second place they removed the 70 and a half was on, they before had a limit on if you were 70 and a half or over, you cannot contribute to an IRA, even if you were still working. But now they've gotten rid of that. So at any age, you can make a contribution to an IRA as long as you have earned income. So moving on to the third item, this is when new children are added to your family. Specifically, new parents whether through birth or adoption of a new child, you can withdraw up to $5,000 from either your 401k or IRA, and you can now do this without having the 10% early withdrawal penalty. So normally, if you were to take out any money from a 401k or IRA, you would have to pay this 10% penalty if you're under the age of 59 and a half. Now, this withdrawal has to be done within 1 year of the birth or adoption of the child, not during pregnancy or during the adoption process. Each parent can take up to $5,000 as well. So if you're both working or both have IRAs, you can take up to $10,000. It is still taxable if I didn't mention that as income, so can't forget that, but you can repay this amount back into your retirement account. So you can do that above and beyond all the normal contribution limits. So it's a pretty cool planning technique they've put into the mix here. So the final provision in the Secure Act, I want you to know there's a lot more inside of here, but these are the 4 main ones, remind you. But they have extended certain tax breaks in the Secure Act. There's 2 main ones. And what's interesting in these is that they've only done these through 2020. So we don't know about the future, that's still uncertain, but they've also made these retroactive for 2019 and 2018. So if these tax situations work for you, you can actually submit an amendment to your past returns. So let's look at the first one. So the allowance of mortgage insurance premium deductions. You can deduct this item on your return if you're itemizing your return. Now, certain income levels you'll phase out. So, you know, a lot of people nowadays, with the standard deduction being raised significantly in the 2017 tax cuts that I previously mentioned, many people that were formally itemizing probably don't anymore, but it is still an option if you do itemize. Just a fun fact, because it is getting closer to tax time, the extension, if you want to find out how much mortgage insurance premium you're paying, you can find that on the Form 1098. So either your lender or your service provider of your mortgage sends that to you each year. It's in box 5. So say that again, Form 1098 in box 5. That is separate than the mortgage interest you pay. That's in box 1. So if you want to check that out. The second item is the deduction for qualified tuition and related expenses. This deduction, you can deduct up to $4,000 of qualified higher education expenses, they call it. And they do this through this fancy term called an above the line exclusion from your income. So an above the line exclusion means if you're paying your taxes but you do not itemize, you can still take this deduction. However, some phase out income